Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing an Orcust deck profile. So this deck just got some really interesting support with the new Orcust Mech Knight Gearsu, which is a really interesting card for this deck, and actually helps out a lot of consistency issues that it was having after Harp Horror got banned, and it just really helps out. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card, giving you a name in the description of every single video, or even getting to have a deck request every single month that you are a patron. So let's get straight on into this, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Orcust Nightmare. So Orcust Nightmare is a really good card in here. You still play this card at 3 because it's a really good card. It can't be destroyed by battle with a link monster. In this card, you can manage this card from your graveyard to target one face-up monster on the field, and you cannot special summon monsters except for dark monsters for the rest of the turn. Not that big a deal, the majority of stuff we're playing in here is dark anyways. And then it also has the ability, you could send a dark monster from your deck to the graveyard, except another copy of itself, and if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of the monster sent to the graveyard times 100. Which isn't that big of a deal, but sending it to the graveyard is the really important fact that you want to kind of look at. Then we play 3 copies of the new Gearsu Orcust Mech Knight. This card is the new awesome card in here. And if you guys don't know, these are actually proxies. I'm still waiting on some of these. I think they're going to go down. I don't think that they're going to stay at the price point that they're at, so I'm kind of waiting on them, but I wanted to do a deck profile of them for you guys. So I did go ahead and make some proxies of these, which if you guys want to check out how to make the proxies, I have a proxy video, which is one of the more viewed versions of it that you guys can check out to see how to make these particular cards, especially with everything that's going on and Eternity Code being delayed. You can definitely make these to do play testing with it. But if you guys don't know what this card does, it is the new card out of Eternity Code. And it has the ability that if this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one Orcust or World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. Then if you have 2 or more cards in this card's column, other cards in this card's column, it's treated as a tuner monster, which is kind of neat. It's kind of not coming into play as much right now. It helps out with a little bit with going into Needle Fiber, but it doesn't come up that much. But it also has the ability that if you control no other monsters, you can special summon 1 World Legacy token to both players' sides of the field. So it basically gives you a free Galatea, essentially just on its first normal summon. So this is the card that you want to open up with and be your first turn starter, essentially, because this card opens up so many plays in this deck, it's ridiculous. And it's just such a good card. So then we're going to be playing 2 copies of Orcust Symbol Skeleton. Symbol Skeleton is the spooky skeleton that you're going to be playing 2 of, and if it's, you can banish from your graveyard to target 1 Orcust monster in your grave and special summon it, and you cannot special summon for the rest of the turn except dark, and you can only use its effect once per turn. I just play a single Brass Bombard now. Brass Bombard lets you banish it to special summon an Orcust from your hand, which is pretty good. It can help you getting out like Gearsus out of your hand or Orcust Nightmares because they're high level monsters if you draw into one, but it's still pretty good for that reason. 2 copies of World Legacy World Wand. World Wand is really good in this deck because you can banish it, and then you get to target one of your banished Orcust monsters and special summon it, which is the big thing that you usually use this for, and that's the big reason that you play this card at all. Then we play 3 copies of Scrap Recycler because you need that extra ability to send cards to the graveyard. So the Scrap Recyclers really help out with that. So basically what you do is when you normal summon this card, you get to send a machine monster from your deck to the graveyard. And this card just got a reprint, which is really nice in the Machina or Machina structure deck, which is really nice. And it basically lets you send any of your Orcust monsters to the graveyard that are, machine monsters, which is really helpful. Because it's not like Armageddon Knight or anything like that. It just sends machines, so it's really helpful. Then we play the Scrap Engine in here as well, which is just 1 copy of the Scrap Golem with the Scrap Recyclers, because you want to be able to use the Scrap Golem with Scrap Wyvern to be able to target one of your level 4 lower Scrap monsters in the graveyard and special summon it, which is going to be your Scrap Recycler, which gets you essentially 2 monsters into the graveyard, which can send a graveyard like a Gearsu and an Orcust, the Orcust Symbol Skeleton to the graveyard, and then use the Symbol Skeleton to bring back your Gearsu, and then Gearsu sends another monster to the graveyard. They could be like World Wand. World Wand could then bring the Symbol Skeleton back to the field, and you get up to 5 monsters on the field just off of the 1 Recycler. I mean, it's ridiculous how powerful Recycler is in this deck. Then we play a single copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Oleon. Oleon is basically here for the Needle Fiber plays, where you can special summon it and do all sorts of stuff with that. Same thing with Junk Synchron. Junk Synchron is here because you special summon it off of your Needle Fiber, and you can use it for a lot of different plays. One copy of the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. I really think this is going to get hit on the next list. I'm not even going to play. I really think it's going to get hit because it's being used with Union Carrier in ways that it shouldn't be, and being able to make it so your opponent can't special summon from the extra deck is a little ridiculous. I'm giving it a 1,000 attack boost to a monster is really crazy, but it's a really good card. So you definitely want to play this card at 1. We play a single copy of Gizmek, the Sky Slasher. The Gizmek is just so good in here because you just banish. You banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down, and then you special summon this card, but getting a monster on field is just really, really nice, and that's why you play it. 2 copies of Nibiru. Nibiru is super good in here because the Nibirus just help you out, just getting rid of your opponent's stuff, and it's probably one of the best hand traps in the entire game. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. You can change these out for Impermanence or a copy of Effect Veiler or whatever hand trap you feel like you need. I like the Ash Blossoms because they preemptively stop stuff before it happens, and so it stops your opponent from sending from deck to grave, and that's why I play it. It's because it stops your opponent from Armageddon Knights and stuff like that, or your Scrap Recyclers if you're playing in a mirror match, or Gearsus. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good in here because you get to send a monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is super helpful to send those monsters from your deck to the graveyard because this deck basically functions in the graveyard, and so that's why you play it as 1. 1 copy of Orcust Babel. Orchestrated Babel is really good because it basically makes all of your Orcust monsters quick effects, which is really, really good. You only play it with 1 because it can be searched off of Galatea. Monster Reborn because it's an extender, and it's just so good in here as an extender to be able to get Gearsu back, your copy of Scrap Recycler back, or stuff like that. Mind Control, because all you have to link into for Galatea is a copy of an Orcust monster and then anything else. So you can use this to take an opponent's monster and then use it as a link material. 1 copy of World Legacy Succession, because you can search it off of Lib, which is really, really nice to be able to search it off of the copy of Lib. 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone. Cosmic Cyclone really helps out because you never know if you're going to be playing against Salamangrate or something, and you need to get rid of a back row that they've got, like Roar or Rage, and the Cosmic Cyclone gets it out of the way so you don't have to deal with it ever again, because they can't recover it from being banished. 2 copies of Orchestrated Return. Orchestrated Return is a good draw power card in this deck because it lets you send an Orcust or a World Legacy monster in your hand to the graveyard, and then you get to draw 2, which they're just going to let them trigger their effects in the graveyard anyways. So this card is a 2 of, is really, really good. If you don't want to get a hold of this because you're trying to go for a little bit of a budget with this deck, you can maybe get away with 1. But 2, I like 2. If you want to change 1 out for maybe a Desires, you could change 1 out for Desires, or maybe an Upstart Goblin if you want to go a little bit more of a budget route. But you also have Allure of Darkness, so that's something to keep in mind. So you do have 5 draw cards. So if you want to go budget, you can maybe drop these. People, when this deck first came out, were not playing these because I know these are $40 a piece, and the rest of the deck is pretty cheap. But that's just something to keep in mind. Well, you're already playing Gearsu, so you're probably not worried about that. Then we're playing 3 copies of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is nuts in here because you just don't have to deal with those hand traps at all. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps, or trap, because we only play 1. We play the searchable counter trap, which is Orcust Crescendo. Crescendo is really good in here because when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated, you just negate it. And then while you control an Orcust Link monster, and it cannot, and if you do, you banish this card from your graveyard. You banish the card, and you banish the card from your graveyard to add one of your banished, or from your deck, one of your Dark Machine monsters, which can be really helpful to just search Gearsu straight off, which is insanely good in this deck because it's basically a search card and an Infernity barrier, which is nuts. So you just want to play 1 of it because it's searchable. It's not super good to hard draw it. You could get away with 2 of it if you wanted to drop 1 of those Orchestrated Returns to give yourself a little bit more of a negate. I could definitely see 2 copies of this in the deck. So that's just me though. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So first off, I'm going to be playing 2 copies of Dingrisu, the Orcust of the Evening Stars. Also, what we call it at locals is Ding Ding. I just love that. I love calling it Ding Ding. So what you do with this card is when it's linked, you can XYZ summon this card on top of a link monster that is an Orcust monster. So on top of Galatea or Orcust Longirsu. But basically what it does is you can also XYZ summon on top of that. And if this card is XYZ summon using an Orcust link monster's material, you if a card you control would be destroyed by a card effect and detach material from this card. Instead, and if this card is special summoned, you can activate one of the effects to either send a card from your opponent controls to the grave, or attach a banished machine as a material, which is super nice to be able to do. One copy of Longirsu. Longirsu is really nice in here because he lets you shuffle 2 your banished machine monsters into the deck, and then you can send a linked monster your opponent controls to the graveyard, which a linked monster is just something that it points to, which is really, really nice to be able to send something that it points to the grave. But it's also 2500 beat stick, which is super nice, and it can't be destroyed by card effects. 2 copies of Galatea. Galatea is insane, but you just need 2 copies of it because we now have Lib. But basically what Galatea does is it can be destroyed by battle if it's linked, and then you can target one of your banished machine monsters and shuffle it into the deck, and then you get to set an Orcust Speller Trap, which is either Babel or Crescendo. So that's something that you need to keep in mind about that. 1 copy of Lib, the World Key Blade Master. You just need 1 Lib because she can be link summoned with just 2 monsters, but she can only be special summoned while you control World Legacy cards in your graveyard. And then during your main phase, you can set a World Legacy spell directly from your deck, which is World Legacy Succession. And if she's link summoned, if this link summon card is sent to the graveyard as link material, you can shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck. She does not target, so that's really good to be able to just get it out of the way. Unicorn to spin stuff, and Phoenix to pop spells and traps, which is super, super helpful to be able to do. 1 copy of Scrap Wyvern. Scrap Wyvern comes in really handy because it lets you target a scrap in your grave and special summon it. Then you destroy a card you control, and if another face-up scrap monster is destroyed by a card effect, you can, while you control this monster, you can special summon a scrap from your deck. So you can bring back the copy of, Recycler, use its effect, pop it, and then after you pop it, you immediately summon Golem, and then Golem can revive it, which is, you know, just a really good effect to be able to just special summon it. It's really crazy to be able to do that. 1 copy of Crystron Needlefiber. Needlefiber just special summons tuner monsters, which is really helpful. It's a good extender. Union Carrier for the ability to go into your Dragon Buster play. 1 copy of Linkuriboh. Linkuriboh is just here for the occasional, like you summon it occasionally off of like Jet Synchron or stuff like that. It's kind of a good card to play in here, so you play it as a one of. Now something that I play in here that I don't see a lot of people playing anymore is 1 copy of Topologic. Topologic is really good in here, and people don't realize it, because it's essentially a board wipe every single turn. Because if you have Babel on the field and you have any of your Orcust that you can banish to special summon another Orcust, you can use this, put it on the field, and then special summon to a zone it points to, and then destroy it, and then destroy all the monsters on your opponent's side of the field. So it's a really good disruption for your opponent, and it's a 3k beat stick as well. Appaloosa, just in case you need the negates. You can change this out for Borreload if you want to go a little bit more budget, if you want to go that route, but I really, really recommend the Topologic. 1 copy of Borrelsword is the last monster we play in the extra deck because it just helps us OTK just that much more. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really, really fun deck to play around with. I feel like this deck is going to get a little bit lower on the totem pole of play, because it's, with Harpar being banned now, it's just not quite what it used to be. And the deck is really good with Girsu in the main deck, the Mekk-Knight Girsu, but it's a tier 2 deck to me now. Like, you don't see it top 8ing as much. You don't see it winning tournaments as much. I just feel like this is probably a tier 2 deck now, which is fine with me because maybe they'll avoid hitting anything else in the deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. And check out that Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.